Good afternoon and welcome to the webinar, Technician Hiring Strategies. This is Dan Malloy coming to you from our offices here in Old Tappan, New Jersey, which is about 25 miles north of New York City, only a short hop, skip, and a jump from the Hudson River. I am pleased to be here as your host. I am President and CEO of Malloy Sales Development Group. 45 years as a sales professional. I was a partner in ProCare Automotive, which was a chain of more than 100 auto repair and tire stores. And my passion and my focus has, for the last 20 years, has been sales, helping our clients to grow their sales and to communicate more effectively. I am thrilled to be here, and I'll tell you why, because as I go around the country and I meet with my clients and prospective clients, and the topic of recruiting and hiring, especially technicians, comes up all the time. And so I contacted my friend and colleague, Mr. Greg Gershman, who I've known for about 10 years. We've done some recruiting projects for clients over the years, and I said, Greg, we've got to do something because it's just a big challenge, you know. And so Greg is here. I'm going to say a little about him in a minute. I do want to set this up just by saying we also have on the call another colleague of Greg's who he's introduced me to, Stephen Warner. I'm going to talk about him a little bit. Two professionals that are going to help and explain the strategy that they've come up with to help all the dealers and people that need to hire technicians and everybody else for that matter. I do want to say also that I was just on the phone with a gentleman who's a really well-known and respected auto repair and tire dealer in the Atlanta market, a friend and client of mine by the name of Mr. James Baxter. Just a little while, within the past couple of hours, and James shared with me that his biggest challenge, you know, that he sees for the industry and for himself is really recruiting, and primarily technicians. You know, so I think that's symptomatic of the whole industry, and that's why we're here. I just want to say a little bit about Greg. Greg Gershman is the managing partner for a company called Recruitment HQ, a firm that helps you manage all aspects of the recruiting process: job ad writing, content creation, advertising strategies, and screening. Greg has more than 25 years experience in automotive, both in sales and also in fixed ops. And Mr. Stephen Warner, who has a great sense of humor, by the way, he has me cracked up all the time since I've known him. But Stephen is a founder and CEO of Automotive HR and has built his business, which he's going to tell you about as we go through this. He's built his business insights and strategy in the automotive HR field. Stephen has 26 years experience in auto dealerships, okay, in the auto auction industry. So a lot of experience here. I personally have not recruited a technician in my life. It's not my thing. I am here to learn, and my commitment is to help my clients and help the industry improve in any way that's possible, any way I can, you know. So without further ado, let me just run through a couple of just quick housekeeping chores right here. The phone-in number, in case you do have to get off and dial in, is, you can see on the screen, 415-655-0052, and the participant access code is 872-928-741. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat box as we go. I will monitor those, and at the end of this session, we will answer them. Okay, so let me just say, you know, based on my research, Greg, what causes the problem that we're all facing? What is it, my friend?
Well, you know, Dan, it's been building for a number of years, and you know, one of the first things for years and years, the government's been spending a lot of money to help people to go to four-year schools to get liberal arts education. And it stopped encouraging them to become things like a technician or a plumber or electrician, all those vocational categories. Well, people stopped going to school for them. And, once that happened and you had more attendance in four-year schools, a lot of the technical schools closed.
Mm-hmm.
So you started having less like Lincoln Techs and things like that.
Right.
So you had fewer people, fewer resources for people that even want to become a technician. Well, there's less classes and less ways for them to learn and less advanced training.
Okay.
And lastly, in this cycle, dealers stopped looking for these entry-level, positions like lube technicians, express techs, and started trying to hire people that already had experience, master techs, or even P-level, because they saw fewer coming out. And so now that even encourages less people to get in and get trained, because if they come out, they can't get that initial job as a lube tech and get training. So it's created this big vacuum where now the numbers have been dropping and dropping and dropping for number of technicians that are out there.
It's at a critical point. I mean, this is what we hear all over the industry. What can you tell? Do you know anything about the statistics, or what can you tell us about the overall statistics of what you're talking about here on this slide?
Well, overall, there's fewer than 900,000 total technicians in the whole United States. And according to ASE, only 197,000 of them are certified.
Mm-hmm.
So you're talking about less than 1% of the population. It's such a small number. So, like I live up in Albany, New York, and we have about 100,000 people in our market, the general market for dealers here.
Right.
And that's a pretty common sized market. And that means that I would have 250 total technicians, including lube techs and uncertified, and just 62 certified techs in my market if I'm on average, which is just a tiny number presently working that have some type of certification.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means if I want to hire a tech that's already certified, and I look at the turnover according to NADA for 2017 was 35% in the technician market. That means that there's only going to be 21 certified techs this whole year that are going to be looking to get a job.
It's not. I'm laughing. It's comical. Number. It's comical in a way because it's such a small number, and it leads me. And this is another thing I've run into in my business. We do lots of sales training. We do analytics regarding sales training. We help companies make the phone ring more and all that. So if we could do a great job on sales training and making the phone ring more, only to have them say we can't get the work done.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
And
it's crazy.
The first thing you have to have are the resources to service your client. Otherwise, you can't build a business.
So what do we do, my friend?
Well, the first thing we have to accept, and no matter what industry you're in, that when you look at such a small amount of people like that you can't change all the factors that created it. What we have to do is have a perfect plan to attack the market and get our message out to those 21 people this next year that I could speak to. And I have to be able, it isn't just that I have to worry about that I want to hire somebody and find one of those 21. Everybody wants to hire them.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got to be better than everybody else.
Big competition. It seems to me, go ahead.
Well, that competition is also going to be some of the larger companies like, I don't know, AutoNation or any of the other big companies that have a lot of resources. So it means that as a small to mid-sized company, I got to have a perfect plan. I got to do better than them to get my unfair share of those people.
Right. Bulletproof. Yeah. It seems to me that it's almost like, like you would be advertising to get new customers all the time. You have to have and that's an ongoing process every day, every week, every minute, in business. That is very similar. And I think I want to turn. I guess this would be a question for Stephen. About both of you. Really, it's a question about advertising, isn't it? Like a marketing problem.
It absolutely is, and it's a doable, solvable problem. What you need to do is to have your jobs. You hit it on the head. You need to be marketing all of the time. Just like when you're looking for customers, you need to have those ads out there all of the time, and then you need to manage those applications as they're coming in. So, and that actually kind of goes into this slide here, where here's some of the different listing systems that you can have your jobs listed on. I would suggest that some of the smaller sites aren't really worth your money unless they're free. But what you do need to be is you need to be on all of them. You need to have all of your jobs listed all of the time on all of those different systems. It's not enough to be on just one system. There are systems out there or platforms out there that can help you to make sure your jobs are aggregated out to all of those different systems all of the time. And then you just need to manage them and build up your pipeline.
How many, let me ask you a question. It's a great question because I don't know. I don't know the answer to this. Maybe other people don't either. How many systems or platforms are there out there that we need to be, if I was a dealer, that I would need to have my applications on?
So there's probably let's say 5 primary ones. So the ones you really need to be on right now, the ones that are going to give you probably the best bang for your buck, is Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Jobs to Careers, Glassdoor, and there may be 1 or 2 other smaller ones. They'll sub-aggregate your jobs out to all those little small ones that are on this list. So there's no need to post them directly on there. There are platforms that will help you to list your job on a system, and then those jobs will go out to all the major systems automatically. So you don't have to post individually, and it's actually cost prohibitive to post directly to each one of those systems. But you have to be on all of them all of the time, because you never know when that technician is going to come along. And again, Greg was talking about 21 for the year. You never know when that person is going to be listed or going to look for a job. And if your job is not listed that minute when that person's on there, or it doesn't display properly, you're going to miss that guy. So you need to have it out there all the time.
Yeah, you know what? It's so important. Before the end of this webinar, my request is for Greg that you explain in a bullet point type of format the services that you provide, and then Stephen, you present the services you provide, because they dovetail nicely. And I want every listener. We've got quite a nice crowd. We got 40 people on the call here on the webinar, which is fabulous. And I want everybody to see, hey, we're presenting the breakdown, presenting the problem, but that there's a very clear solution by working with the two of you. Very important, I think.
Yeah. One small note on, why everything that Stephen is telling you is so important. Stephen mentioned that small number, and just imagine those 21 people trying to find them. Most dealers think about advertising in a 30-day window, right? I'm going to advertise for 30 days. Well, if I divide that 21 by a year, it's less than 2 a month. Some months it might be 0 people looking. Some months it might be 3 or 4. Remember, it's an average.
Right.
So if you're only thinking in terms of 30 days, your 30 days could be the one that no technician is looking. It's got to be longer term than that.
Like a constant presence is what you're saying. Just like we said before,
yeah.
It's a marketing and advertising issue. It's also a communications issue. No, it's like what are you going to say? So let's assume, all right, you have to have a constant presence out there in the marketplace for recruiting, which is what you're saying, constant presence, right? And so how do you communicate? What are the words for, what are the key words for finding technicians?
You got to think in terms of 3 things that need to happen, once you're on all of these job boards. Number 1, because it's not like you used to advertise and your job would be in the Sunday paper and everybody would flip through all the pages. Well, now there's millions of jobs that are all housed in a database, and the only way for somebody to find one is to search for it. So they put in a search term, and the only thing that matters is how well your job gets found by that search. So take technicians. I've seen some some dealers will just use the word technician for the title. And I found one of those on Indeed, and it actually got wrapped in with nail technicians. So this dealer's job looking for automotive technicians was next to Lucky Nails and Happy Nails and all those other nail places looking for nail technicians.
Well, he might
so
want to
like
change careers. You never know. I mean, come on.
Yeah, maybe. So,
These
you know,
are the
like
jokes.
that would need to be automotive technician to get anybody to find it. So
Right.
you need to think about your titles very, very carefully, and they have to really describe what the person's searching for. Or here's another example, and this would be on the sales side. I've seen some people put in product presenter. Well, nobody's searching to be a product presenter. They search to be a sales representative. So that job would never get found.
Right.
And I find, you know, a lot of jobs like that.
So one of the things that you do in your company, right, is to help, you know, with the search terms and help write the ads and help do all that. I mean, I know I mentioned that up front briefly, but that's one of the things that you do, correct?
Right. So for any of our clients, we'll format their titles, and the next thing on here, we'll go ahead and actually craft their entire ad. And there's a lot of science between, you know, writing the ad. So not only does your ad get clicked on, but they click the apply button. Like Indeed actually did some research, and if you go back a slide, Dan, Indeed did some research and said that anything over 350 words got 20% less apply clicks, and anything under 200 words got 30% less apply clicks. So like your ad should be between 200 and 350 words, where it has enough information to really tell somebody about the job and the responsibilities to get them to want to apply. So it shouldn't be an ad that just says, need text now, pay a lot. And we still see a lot like that.
Right. It's a waste of time, really, is what you're saying. You know,
those ads don't drive people to apply.
Yeah. So it's constant presence out there, you know, in the world. And we'll talk about that later when, you know, when Stephen gets to share what he does, and then having the right words and the right message and the right opportunity presented, really important.
Yeah, and then, you know, these guys, any of these ads have to be compelling, right? You're competing with other people to get these technicians. Well, in your ad, there's got to be a reason why they pick you, whether that's a 4-day work week if you offer it, if your shop has air conditioning, if you pay to update tools for them, or any type of training that you give, anything that you could give these guys, you got to spell it out in your ad, because you're competing against everybody. Just like when you're trying to motivate people to come to your store to get work done.
Right.
You got to tell them why you're better equipment, better techs, better price.
Sure.
You got to excite people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the other thing also, because in the essence of time, we're at 18 minutes. We said we were going to try and get through this in 30 minutes. Okay. I want you to talk for a minute about what you run into on this next slide. I thought it was interesting, you know, about technicians themselves. You're going after where this is, obviously we're talking about all, you know, recruiting, but specifically about technicians. So what can you tell us, report your findings are about recruiting technicians?
So actually, I was also going to add a little bit to what Greg was just talking about basically identifying with the title, identifying so that you're coming up in search in the correct place. So kind of the transition to that is, once you've got them there, when somebody clicks on your apply button, it needs to be very simple and precise. You don't need to ask every question that you obviously would like to know in that first apply button. What it'll cause is a huge drop off. People will basically see your apply button. They'll see that it's 20 pages worth of application, and they go away. Or they'll have to have a password and a username to get in. They'll make them go away. So as far as this slide, 75% of job seekers are using mobile or tablet. I'd actually say it's probably as much as 85% now, especially with technicians. They're generally not sitting in front of a computer all day, so they're going to be accessing those jobs and doing those things from their mobile device. So if your system cannot take their application, if they can't view it properly, or if there's any kind of hurdles at all, you're going to lose that one person that finally came along.
Yeah.
Also, as far as the resumes, your system, that when you're gathering those applications, you're going to request that they provide you with a resume. If they cannot add their resume from their mobile device, like using Dropbox or Google Drive or any of those other kind of things from cloud services, you're going to lose that person as well, or you will not get their resume when they apply. So the technicians are generally, again, they're busy out there doing their stuff. They're not sitting in front of a computer all the time. So again, if they can't do something on their mobile device, they probably may not do it. And one of those things is the resume. So don't always discount a technician based off of that resume. You will need to talk to them. When these folks apply, you'll kind of need to dive a little deeper. What they'll often put is maybe their current position only, or just scattered stuff. It's not really organized oftentimes, and it doesn't give you the full picture. So you will need to do a little bit more digging with technicians so that you can find the gold in that batch.
So let me ask a question. Let me ask a question of the two of you now. So you're hitting on a couple of points. One is, let's say you're really successful with a campaign for a client, and you're getting lots of applicants come in. What do you do, Greg? How do you help the dealers at that point? And so it's two questions. Greg, what do you do if they all of a sudden they get flooded with quite a few applicants? Number one. And the second question is, Stephen, what do you do to help that process, to make that happen?
Well, the big thing that either they need to do for themselves or find a company like us is commit to talking to everybody that applies. Don't assume that the information they're getting through that application is all that they need to know. Mm-hmm. Because what will happen is they may step over a person that has lots of experience and just didn't add it. So the screening process, most people think about it as finding a way to exclude people, where I'm trying to weed out people. Actually, what we're really trying to do is dig for the people that might have more experience than we're finding on the resume that we really want to talk to.
But here's my point, Greg. Here's my point, what I want to bring up. Because I work with dealers, small dealers, medium-sized dealers, large dealers. Hiring people is a challenge. So how does your company help in that respect with regard to the screening and interviewing and all that kind of stuff?
Well, we have a full staff that sits and makes all those calls. So, you don't need to stop working with your techs, generating repair orders and selling. If 50 people apply today for a job, my staff are calling all of them today. So that you don't need to stop what you're doing. You can save yourself 2-3 hours of work. You can save yourself buying an extra employee in-house to do that. We take all of that away.
So that's nice. That's what I'm talking. Make life easier. So Stephen, on your end of it, how do you support the process? On what we're talking about, to make the phone ring, to collect the data, to collect the resumes, to collect the applications and all that.
So we provide dealers with the tools to be able to do those things. So basically it's a full marketing system. So it helps them to create the jobs, to get the jobs out there so that they're seen. And it's also the process for you to manage the applicants once they come in. So it'll aggregate those applications from wherever they come in. So if somebody applies on Indeed or any place, those jobs or those applicants all filter into the system so that you can manage them easily. What you're doing is, again, you're investing in your future with talking to these candidates and kind of going through them because you're not always maybe hiring just for today. You're building up your pipeline. So this is something that, again, it's a constant job. You need to constantly be doing it so that you may not need somebody today, or you may not need 5 people today. You can pick out the best ones, but you also are building up that reserve for a rainy day.
Yeah.
So that way, when you do need them really bad, that 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, Now you have people that you've already vetted. You've already gone through a number of these. So you're not having to place a new ad out there and wait for those new applicants to come in. You've already vetted those folks and you've already got them in your system. So now you can just go back and pull from those. Of course, your job is still running all the time. So you're getting new ones coming in, but you're also able to go back to the ones you've already identified as maybe a future opportunity. So
You know what I love?
Basically,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say our platform helps you to do those type of things, as well as working with like a company like with Greg's that will actually do the calling for you and do the screening for you and really help you to identify those key candidates.
You know, I know this is an educational webinar. It's not, this is not supposed to be a quote unquote sales pitch, and that's not what I want to get to. But I want the dealers, the people on the call, on the webinar, to see that there's a comprehensive solution, you know, and the two components, you know, that you just mentioned, Stephen. I like this slide. Let's say somebody has to recruit somebody tomorrow and they have applicants coming in. I thought this was pretty practical information. Maybe Greg, you could talk to this slide a little bit.
So, you know, the interview, again, the thought process for most people for an interview is this is a place for the employer to ask a bunch of questions and weed people out. But this really needs to be a selling showcase, that when somebody comes in for an interview, seeing as there's so much competition for a technician, that we really have to show them why they would choose our company. So I would start with having a printed list of all the benefits of your job and your company, places that, you know, maybe you have charitable things that you do in the community. I would let them know that. New things about your building, renovations, new equipment, benefits that they get. And I'd have it in written format so they're walking out. So when they go home and talk with their families about what job they may want to take, they can actually sell to their spouses why they'd want your job. Because a lot of times it's a family decision.
Gentlemen,
I'd
just
also
interrupt real quick, Greg. Just say we've got 3 minutes left. Okay, so let's use your time wisely.
Yes, I'll be fast. You know, also I would put in a practice of having an orientation tour before you interview people. So they meet somebody inside the building, a worker that you think they might connect with, and it'll give them the opportunity to see things and maybe ask you questions during the interview. So your interview is more back and forth and more engaging. And lastly, you need to open up time periods and be creative about when you can meet people. If you're trying to meet a tech and they're presently working now and you're telling them, hey, I can only meet between 10 and 11 Tuesdays and Wednesdays, you may miss out on a qualified technician that wants to come work at your facility just because they can't get there for an interview.
Yeah, makes sense. That's really important. Really important. Yeah, makes perfect sense. Really good.
And if you want to go on to the next slide, I just have a couple last tips for people where you could try to gain some more technicians aside from just advertising for them. You know, we have a resource that comes to our shop every day, and these are vendors that are selling tools like the Mack truck guy, uniforms, the guy with the roach coat, your food vendors. They're visiting your shop every day, and they're talking to techs in your community every day. So, you know, as a GM or a service director, I'd be walking out to each one of these vendors every time they came into my shop to ask about what's going on at other shops. Who's disgruntled, who's unhappy, who made changes, who's got new management at the store. And I talk about a referral fee, you know, for the vendor, if they can pitch somebody to you and tell them to talk about a signing bonus for a, you know, master tech that you're trying to grab to excite them, because you won't even have to advertise for them.
Yeah, very good. Really, really good. Guys, I want to personally thank you for getting together with us. Here's my suggestion to all those in the webinar. If you have, there's a complete solution, you know, with regard to recruiting. All right. My role here in Malloy Sales Development, Malloy Business Development is to just help and to bring this and put it forward. I've done that. If you have any questions, please go to Greg Gershman at Recruitment HQ. He will get the ball going. He will start the whole process off with you, right? And then when appropriate, he'll get Stephen involved at Automotive HR, right? So these are the websites. Jot them down, and you can contact Greg. At a later date, I will invite everybody to come to a webinar where we will talk about what Malloy sales development is all about, right? We're going to hold that off for later. But for right now, I really want to thank people. It's exactly 2:30. I want to finish exactly on time.
Actually, Dan, before you thank people, I want to do one last thing.
Yes, sir.
You said we had 40 people on the webinar right now?
Yes.
Okay. Who's the 18th person on the list?
Let me
Can
count
you look down the list
and
just count down to 18?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Mr. Ken Winkley.
That would be our winner for a free campaign.
Oh, wow.
Position.
Fabulous, Ken. Ken Winkley. You are the winner of a free recruiting campaign. Fabulous.
So Dan, you have his contact information.
Yes. Just make sure you write it down. Well, you can communicate directly with Ken. We have he registered for the webinar. So we are now officially 1 minute over. Let me just stop right here and say, does anybody have any questions? Please type them into the chat window, and I'll wait another couple of minutes. If you have to leave, please feel free to bail out. If you have a question, we'll stick around for a few minutes and the open up questions for Stephen and for Greg. Fabulous turnout. I think guys, that this points to just how big the challenge is throughout the industry. You know, we had 50 some odd people register, and 40 showed up, which is really great, you know, from a webinar standpoint. Here's Mark Conan has a question. Let me see what his question is. Will there be a recording available? Yes, there will. Okay. And here Randy had a question also. Great. I suspect most of us attending would be fine with this going long. I suspect most would rather get the information. Yeah, so we can stay on a little bit longer for those of you that want to stay on. For me, if I was, which is fine, you know, so two questions. One, there will be a recording. We're going to make that available to everybody. And those that could not make it, I know my friend Chris Mitzos at Mountain View Tire wants the recording. And so does Randy, all right?
Hey, Dan, also?
Yes, sir.
I wondered if you could also let everybody know that they can reach out to either Greg or myself at any time, and we'll walk them through any of their questions, kind of help them with advice. There is no obligation, so they can feel free to contact either of us. And again, we can kind of some of the questions maybe they weren't able to ask or didn't feel comfortable doing. They can sure call us, and we'll walk them through.
Yes.
And when the recording is ready, I'm going to place that onto like a blog post. It'll have some additional notes, and it'll have contact information, you know, for Steve, myself, Dan, because our programs kind of work with one another. Any of us can answer questions that you might have, you know, even if you can't think of them now.
Well, here's one that just came in, and this is interesting. In terms of recruiting entry-level lube techs or general service type people, has there been success in looking for those types outside of the automotive industry, like in the restaurant industry or in some other industries? Great question.
Yeah, actually, you can find them, and part of that goes into how you write your ad. So some of your job relevance, when people are searching, you can change that by using keywords inside your advertising. So you might put in a keyword of valet. Let's say I want to find lube techs from valets at restaurants. So I can keyword that with valet. So somebody searching for a valet job will also find my lube tech job. So, you know, based on how you write your ad, you can reach those people.
Hmm. Beautiful. Thank you. Here's another question, or more of a statement that Joan would like a recording. And here's a question for you, Greg. These are your slides. Will you be able to send out the slides to anybody later on? Joan had asked. Joan
Yeah,
Villou. Joan
if somebody
Villou. I
has
hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
what I can do is when I send out the blog post, I'll also have a link where you can download the slideshow.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Yeah. Cool. So Randy had a question. I'm just trying to think. The question was, he'd rather us take a little bit more time and explain things. And what I'd like to hear, now I'm putting my hat on as a former dealer, right? If I was confronted with the hiring issue, Greg, what I'd like to hear from you specifically in bullet point format are the things that you could do for me. What could you do for me as a dealer if I was a dealer with your company, Recruitment HQ? And then I have the same question, Stephen, for you. Bullet point, just list of what you can help me with. Go for it, Greg.
Okay. Well, first, to answer Randy's question, I'm hoping in the future as we put out these webinars, that we can kind of dig down into some things, let's say like job ad writing, where we can be a little bit more granular on something.
Sure.
Now, as far as what our company offers, we take over all the human resource things that you might need. So we'll write your ads, keyword them, go ahead and manage all the reporting, manage screening the candidates, manage setting interviews and giving them decisions. Really, the goal for us as a company is to take all the labor away from any of our clients so that you're not expending 2, 3, 4 hours a day writing ads, posting them, screening people, reviewing resumes. We do all that.
Plus, when we talked during the practice, I thought it was really important. If people aren't experts at recruiting, they make mistakes in the recruiting and the questions they ask and things like that. Is that not true?
Yeah, and we also, we go ahead, we write out questions to get asked, help to score them, so we make sure that we're picking the right candidates and comparing them against one another properly. And we actually, as part of what we do, is we actually use Stephen's software system, and that actually comes with everything that we do. Stephen, why don't you talk about what your system provides that we work with?
Yeah. So basically, what our system will do is it makes the job creation easy, so that basically the templates are there so that you can basically put together a marketing plan basically for your job, and then when you're finished and you post your job, those jobs go out to all of the major places that it needs to be seen. That's probably the most important part of what our system does, is it makes sure with one click that you're now posted on all of the major systems. So when people are going out to look for a job, you need to be in front of them. So our system will take care of that.
Nice.
Then where a lot of companies make a mistake is they'll try and manage those applicants. So if they sign up with Indeed or somebody directly, they try and manage those applicants through their email system. Absolutely horrible. I don't know who can find an email that they received a week ago. You're definitely not going to be able to manage your candidates. So a system like ours will help you to manage all those candidates. It puts it in a nice, kind of like a CRM format, so that it's easy to find.
Nice.
So yeah, and it basically, it structures the process, and that's the biggest part is you need to have a structured process. People just expect you're supposed to know how to do all this stuff. With a platform like ours, is it basically makes a structure for you so that you can just kind of follow the process, and it makes it real easy.
And so in a meeting with a client, and I see some of my clients on here right now, in a meeting with a client, that you would go over the platform, show them how to use the give them a complete demonstration of your platform, right? I mean, that would be a part of it.
Yeah. So you'd basically receive, you know, a full career website. So you can, again, talk about your brand and what Greg was kind of addressing earlier about what sets you apart from your competitor down the street. If somebody comes to your job or comes to your stuff, how do you differentiate yourself? What makes you any different? So you need to have a platform that will basically help you to do that. And then once those people come in, how do you manage them, and how do you build up your pipeline so that you have, again, people in advance? You've already vetted them. So
it's interesting what you said. I like the word a career website. You know, the dealers spend thousands on promoting their services and their businesses to the general public, you know, to sell tires, auto repair, whatever they're selling, right?
Yeah.
But nothing on the recruiting end.
They don't. And if you go to most, really any company's website, it's kind of the part that may be included if they bought a website in a package thing. So it came with that little thing that lets you manage it through your email. But it's kind of a forgotten thing. They don't pay enough attention to it.
Yes.
But really what it is those folks that are applying to your jobs are oftentimes your customers as well. So that's a key part of it. And you don't think that if you have something really cool that tells your story and kind of separates you from everybody else, that your clients aren't also looking at that? They're going on there to find out more information about you as well.
Yes.
So that's a key part. And
I like that.
I
just like the idea of a career website, you know, that for current employees, I think, and for new prospective hires. I really like that whole concept. Yeah.
You know, when you
that's
share
part
your
of
job
why, you know, one thing about that's part of why you need to go ahead and talk to everybody that applies. You know, one of the things that we do as a company is we actually survey everybody who applies to ask them what the effect of our application process using Stephen's software and talking to us has on their opinion of our client. And 70% say they're more likely to or definitely will service their car with our client based on how the application process went. And these are people that didn't get the job, right? It's just everybody getting surveyed. Mm-hmm. So, you know, how they're dealt with can have a huge financial impact, not only on your hiring people, but gaining new clients.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Well, guys, we're into it now for 42 minutes. We've got a bunch. Are there any other questions that we could perhaps answer for anybody out there? While I'm waiting for some answers to questions, I really want to thank some of my friends, Brian Johnson, Butch Hammett, Chris Vecchiarelli. I see you out there. Greg Gershman. Oh, wait a minute. That's you, Greg. Ken Winkley, congratulations on winning the free. You should be thankful. You'll speak with Greg about that. The free campaign. My own Linda Smith. We had a whole bunch of people. Renell Flynn. Hi, Renell. And so, listen. I mean, unless we get some more questions, let me see. I don't see any more questions coming in. So I think on that note, unless do you have anything else that you want to share, Greg?
No, just be on the lookout for the email. It'll be a link to the blog post that'll have the recording, the ability to download the slides, and some additional typed information that you could read through with a little bit more in-depth information.
Beautiful. And thank you, Greg. And you, Stephen, anything else you'd like to share as we end this?
I just wanted to thank you for letting me be on this with you guys, and to let the folks know that they need to build their pipeline and manage those on a continuing basis. Yeah, fabulous. Guys, I was very pleased with the results. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks, everybody, for being here. And those of you that are in my power sales training, I'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early. Have a great day, everybody. Ciao.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye now.